What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of Patient X Holistic Healing. Today's video, we're going to discuss how to raise your frequency, right? I made another video before. I'm going to go more in depth in this video. I'm going to link the other one right here if you want to check that out. If you never seen me before, my name is Professor X. I'll be a healing coach and spiritual teacher today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have anything to add to the conversation, and let's get right into it. So first and foremost, what you got to understand about frequency is that everything has a frequency, every single thing, right? Frequency is just the measure of energy. It's how fast an energy is moving, if you will. So, what you got to understand about energy is that the higher the energy, the more likely an energy is going to be moving fast. The more energy that's in a system, the more likely that it's going to be moving faster, right? When you look at light, right? Light is one of the fastest frequencies out there. It's actually the fastest frequency out there, at least within the physical world. Now, there are different levels of light. I'll put the electromagnetic spectrum right here. There are different levels of light ranging from like visible light all the way to gamma radiation. Another thing you got to learn about radiation is that it's just light. It's just a different form of light. I bring up light though because light is vibrating super fast, right? Because it's high energy, especially on the more gamma side, it's super high energy. So the vibration is happening very fast, which means it has a high frequency. Now, where do you come into play, right? I'm talking about all of these other things. What about you? Now, what you got to understand about yourself and everybody, like I told you, everything has a frequency, but our frequencies are more than physical, right? When we talk about light, sound, all of these are physical frequencies that we experience in the physical realm. But energy goes beyond the physical realm, and that's how things manifest into the physical, by energy condensing into solid matter. That being said, your frequencies pretty much supersede the physical realm. They don't abide by the laws of physics. So if you want to raise your frequency, first you have to identify your physical frequencies and your non-physical frequencies, right? My body, it has a bunch of organs. Each organ has its own frequency it vibrates on, its homeostatic frequency, if you will, the frequency that it likes to vibrate on, essentially. And then they come together to create an even bigger frequency. This is the frequency of my body, right? And then my electromagnetic field is projecting that frequency outwards, right? When we talk about electromagnetism, the heart generates an electromagnetic field. Every organ in your body actually has a small magnetic field that comes together and creates an even bigger one, just like the frequency. The frequency is more like, what does the electromagnetic field sound like? That's the frequency, right? Really where the sauce is in the electromagnetic field. That's why all light, all energy is on the electromagnetic spectrum, right? Well, not all energy, right? It's different forms of energy. Some is usable energy, some is energy that we can't really necessarily use per se, but we still experience it. Now, the next thing you have to understand is that like attracts like, right? A high frequency is going to attract other frequencies that maintain its highness, right? Like light congregates with light, it spreads with light. Atoms, that's on a lower frequency, that's physical matter. They only bond with other atoms that are on their frequency, or they will bond with another atom that'll help it maintain a certain state of being or a certain frequency. This is why we have, a bunch of different molecules. Everything is just trying to basically regulate itself, right? Negative and positive. It's trying to regulate its either negativity or positivity. The same goes for you. You're going to attract things that are on a lower frequency and things that are on a higher frequency than you, so that you can maintain a certain homeostatic state. If you want to raise your frequency though, you have to raise your homeostatic state, your normal frequency, or else every time that you raise up, you're going to come back down to the regular state that you're normally at. This takes incredible consistency. It takes specific practices, and you're going to have to lock in essentially. So I'm going to give you some practices real quick that'll help you quickly raise your frequency, and then other practices that'll help you raise your frequency long term. So like I told you earlier, to raise your frequency, you have to put more energy in the system. Let's say that I'm super lazy, I'm always tired all the time, I have no energy, but I want to raise my frequency, right? What I'm gonna have to do is start having practices that will make me have more energy, right? So number one, first and foremost, is activity. That's going to raise your frequency short term. When you actually in the physical body, when you get up and go do things, your body gets the note to make more energy. This is why you could be dead tired, but then go to the gym and just lift a few weights, or go outside and run, just jog a little bit. But you'll realize that even though you were tired before, now you have more energy to complete the task. That's because your mitochondria has got the signal to start producing, right? So activity will attract more energy. This is why high frequency individuals such as myself always stay busy. We stay doing things because this is how we regulate energy. Aside from just doing things and attracting the energy that way, you want to actually just do specific things that'll raise your frequency, not just do anything. You know, me personally, I like to make videos. I like to note in my journal. I like to write a lot. I like to eat healthy. It's a lot of things that I do. I like to work out. It's a bunch of things that I do that make me have a higher frequency. And they only make me have a higher frequency because they maintain my energy input. Since I'm always doing productive things, I have more energy to do productive things. Like attracts like. Whereas if I was always doing lazy things or always doing nothing, then I wouldn't attract more energy. I would attract no energy. Another way to raise your frequency is to manage your energy better. Now that you have more energy, you inputted more energy into the system, you have to know to manage this energy. The best way to regulate your energy is energy and emotional control. You know, you want to control your emotions. You don't want to, waste your energy thinking about, oh, this, that, and the third, this didn't go right, or, oh, I'm sad, or I don't feel good, or, you don't want to do that. Happiness scientifically makes you feel more energized. And this is because happiness is a higher frequency. Happiness is an open feeling, an inviting feeling. And that's how you want to be. You want to attract more energy, right? So you want to make sure that you're staying happy, not necessarily staying happy all the time, because it's good to be sad every now and then. Just to come up, you have to come down, right? That's just a part of life. But happiness should be the focus, not sadness. Also, your emotional reactions to situations. You don't want to be emotionally reacting through anger or lust or, envy. You don't want to, all of the 7 deadly sins, you don't want to emotionally react in those ways. You want to react in ways that'll increase your consciousness. Because every time you experience something and choose to act the right way instead of the wrong way, it literally makes you look at yourself and be like, damn, like, I could have reacted this way, but I didn't. And to yourself, you seem more responsible. You seem more mature. You seem like as if you were on a higher frequency or you had higher consciousness. That constant reinforcement of these higher frequency behaviors is what keeps you on that path. Whereas if you fumble, you're more susceptible to self-doubt and these things that'll lower your frequency. So emotional control and manipulation is very important when it comes to maintaining a higher frequency. Now we're going to get into specific key practices that you can do to raise your frequency to elite levels, right? We're going to talk about breath work and meditation. When it comes to breathing in the physical body, you got to understand as above, so below. If you're getting more energy physically, you're going to be getting more energy spiritually as well. You actually have spiritual bodies that work in tandem. So anything that you're experiencing in one of your bodies is likely happening in other bodies as well. The thing that you have to understand about the breath is that the breath is integral to how we get energy as human beings. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe in oxygen, and this oxygen goes into our cells and goes straight to the electron transport chain where it helps regulate the flow of electrons. Without oxygen, your body would not be able to build up enough electrons to continuously produce ATP, which is the chemical that gives us energy. Our body breaks down ATP and energy is released. This is what causes muscle twitches and all of these things in the body. So oxygen is a very, very important part of energy production. Most people, they don't breathe right. They or they breathe super slow. And that's not how you want to breathe. You want to take deep breath, exhale, right? And it's something that you could do at all times a day. You don't have to only do it when you're meditating. That is the next step. The next practice is meditation. But first we got to get breathing down. In Demon Slayer, it's an anime. They talk about continuous breathing. I forgot the actual technique that they call it, but it's continuous breathing, and it helps you stay in technique and keep a high energy so that you can do the sword movements, right? That's very important, and that's real life. That's not just anime. You want to keep a constant breath to maintain a high energy. Not only is there oxygen in the air, we're breathing in non-physical energies as well into our physical bodies when we breathe. So if you want your energy bodies to be regulated and maintained, you have to keep breathing in constant energy. Once your spiritual bodies and energetic bodies are aligned, it'll manifest into your physical body as well. Right now, the next step is meditation, or, some type of Tai Chi. Any type of practices, different types of meditations, yogas, things where you're being completely still and breathing in, breathing out, or you can do movements. Tai Chi is more of a, just moving energy throughout your body and around you. That's going to raise your frequency quite a bit, actually. If it's one thing in this world that raises your frequency the most in a short period of time, it's meditation. Even though when you meditate, your frequency spikes, and then it goes back down after you stop meditating, the more you spike it up, it gets used to being higher. So if you meditate every day, your natural frequency will naturally rise. And that's how you get that homeostatic frequency up. Like I told you, your frequency is going to baseline at a certain comfortable level. But if you want to raise that, you got to do some type of meditation practice. The reason why our frequency raises when we meditate is because we're, number one, taking that energy. Like I said, we're breathing. So we're introducing more energy into the system. And then we're being completely still and mindful. So we're regulating the energy very well. No energy is escaping the system. Then we focus. That's going to create a sharp intention where it's like, now anything that I do focus on or want to do mentally, I can do it. And what you got to understand about the mind is the mind exists beyond the physical plane. The mind is on a higher frequency naturally. So the more I dwell in the mind, and at that, the more focused I am in the mind, the higher frequency I'm going to be. If you get really well versed in meditation, not only can you dwell in the mind, you can also go beyond the mind. You could go into the causal plane, the Buddhic plane. You could go way beyond the Buddhic and beyond. You feel me? All of these layers of reality each exist on a higher frequency and a higher frequency and a higher frequency, to the point where you could enter the abstract, you can enter the formless, and then you can just receive downloads into the physical body, right? Now it's important when meditating that you have a high physical frequency, like your physical body has to be high frequency, because if you're not on a high frequency, as far as, the physical body, you're not going to be able to ground this information that you're receiving. But that's a whole other video. Another thing that'll raise your frequency a lot is eating super healthy, right? Not eating super dense food. This is going to raise your frequency and increase your baseline quite a bit because what you intake is constantly creating your baseline frequency. So if you're changing your intake, your baseline is naturally going to change. It's probably actually one of the easiest ways to change your frequency is changing your diet. And this isn't just physical food. This is with, intaking what you see, hear, all these things, everything that your senses interact with, controlling that is all consumption. But just to focus on the food, there are specific foods that are naturally higher in frequency, like fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables actually naturally have more energy. If you look at the trophic levels in science or ecosystems, it'll show you how from the bottom feeders of an ecosystem all the way to the apex predator. The apex predator, he's the big guy, he's calling shots, but he actually consumes the least energy out of everybody in the system. The most energy in the system lies with the producers. This is the grasses, this is the plants, this is the fungus. Everything in those that level of ecosystems is what has the most energy. So if you are eating the producers, you're going to naturally have more energy. Eating different consumers, like primary consumers, that's the main food source for most of humanity, is primary consumers. These are animals that eat the grass, right? Eating these animals will give you energy, but it's like you'll get more energy from eating more fruits and vegetables. I'm not telling you to go straight vegan, I'm vegan, but you don't got to do that. You can just make sure you have a good balance eating fruits and vegetables with every meal. That's how you raise your frequency. But I'm always promote being a primary consumer. That's just my way of life. The last thing that you can do to raise your frequency is control your environment. Like I told you, anything sensory that your senses come in contact with, you want to control that. It's not about being a control freak, but at the same time, it's like you want to control these things so that you can be on the highest level that you want to be at. When it comes to your environment is the number one handicap when it comes to your vibration. Borderline, your environment is going to naturally cap off your frequency to a certain level. This is why it's important to build a proper home and living a proper dwelling. You want these things to be good so that you can raise your frequency the highest when you're in your own space, because outside of your own space, it's almost impossible to maintain that super high frequency. Matter of fact, people don't even understand that their environment is naturally intelligence. Every room that you've ever been in, every building that you've ever been in, every park, public place, it has its own spirit. And this spirit is an intelligent energy. It's not an actual entity, but it's an intelligent energy. This energy will actually regulate the flow of energy in that room. So if your frequency and energy is naturally superseding the spirit of that environment, the environment is going to get rid of you. I experienced this a lot of times. I'll probably make some videos about it, but just a quick experience. For example, work. I used to have this job where I was naturally the highest frequency person at the job, to be honest. These people would be trying to get to me and I would be trying my best to not let them get to me. And eventually I just got fired. Like, they let my ass go. And it wasn't because I was a bad worker. I was actually one of the hardest working people in there. But it just goes to show, if you are superseding your environment as far as frequency, it'll naturally kick you out because you're offsetting the balance of that environment. It's either that or you completely overtake the environment, which is like rare when it comes to like situations like I just said, but it is very common in nature. You know, when you see invasive species coming around and then they take over an ecosystem, like this has less to do with frequency and more just biology and ecosystems, but that is still an example of a organism overtaking its environment. When it comes to humans, it's kind of rare to overtake your environment because our environments are perpetuated by human energy. Human energy is kind of rigid. You know, certain people, they're going to move however they want to move. And sometimes it's nothing you could do that'll change them. So naturally, you're going to be the one forced out the environment. But I'm going to end it right there, y'all. Thanks for making it this far in the video. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot. You know, if you have anything to add to the conversation, please leave it down in the comments below. I'm going to keep making these frequency videos and giving you new ways and new perspectives on how to raise your frequency because it's so important. Like, this is the mission right now spiritually. We want to raise the collective consciousness. And to do that, we have to raise people's frequency and our own. Right? That being said, I want to thank you for watching Patient X Holistic Healing. My name is Professor X, and I'm going to catch you on the next one. Peace.